It's upcycle time. We're going to make an awesome pieced pillow out of old jeans. So, in order to make a pillow like this photo, we're going to need 2 different colors of jeans. I went ahead and found an old pair of jeans that was a light blue and a dark blue. So that's what I'll be using. The first step that we need to do is get this pocket cut out of one of these jeans. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to cut straight up this seam on the outside of this leg all the way up to the top. Now we can lay this out flat and not have to worry about fussing with the back side of these pants. And what you're going to want to do is cut here as close to this top seam and the seam that goes down the center of the back, just like this, and cut this out. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. So you'll end up just cutting this pocket out and it'll kind of look like this. It's not square or anything. And then what you're going to want to do is lay it out flat and cut it in an equal square. Make sure you leave as much room above this pocket as you can. So this is one that I did square up, and you can see that I just cut off the uneven parts here. See here, you might be able to see easier that way. So I just cut off the uneven parts and made sure that everything was square. Whatever shape you start with here, if it's a square or a rectangle, is the shape of the pillow that you're going to end up with. The next step after you get this square all cut out is that you are going to cut down. So you'll cut this part out, so this will be gone, and then you're going to cut strips the length of this pant leg 3 inches wide. You should only need 1 strip the length, depending on how big you want your pillow or how big your pants are. I did 1 strip of the light color and 1 strip of the dark color, so they look like this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take our light strip, our dark strip, and our pocket, and we're going to iron them flat to start with. So I'm going to flip this pocket upside down to do this because I don't really care how flat the pocket part is. What I'm worried about is the part around the pocket, because that's what I'm going to be sewing onto. Alright. Now you can notice here that I made sure and left some on top of this pocket as much as I could, because remember, we need to sew to this, but we don't want to sew this closed because then we can't use the pocket in the pillow. Sometimes jeans take a hotter temperature and a longer time or more pressure when you're ironing to get all the wrinkles out, just because they are made out of a more sturdy fabric. So if you're having a hard time getting these wrinkles out and getting this fabric to lay flat, just turn your iron up a little bit. You probably can't get your iron hot enough to burn through this fabric. Now, if you look at this finished picture again, what you'll notice is that all the dark colors are along one edge and all the light colors are on the other. So we're going to make sure that we put the right color on each side. So let's start out, and I'm going to put my dark on the top here. And I'm just going to put the right sides, so the colors I want to see, together. I'm going to line up this edge here so that these ends meet, and I'm going to line up this top edge and pin it in place. We're not going to worry about cutting off the end yet, this long tail, until we get it sewn together. So just get your pins in there, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine over here. And I'm just going to sew this together. Make sure that you are over enough that you're going to catch both fabric colors, but that you don't sew across the top of the pocket, because we do want to keep that open. Okay, now when you get to the edge of this pocket over here, just sew off the edge of that square, and then we're going to cut that off, cut our tails off, and take our pins out. Now, if we flip this over, we can see where the end of this is. We're going to cut this about 1/2 inch longer than you think it needs to be, just in case. And then we're going to go ahead and iron this flat. Okay. Once that's ironed flat, we need to alternate. So now we're going to do up this side, or whatever side you want. I think that I want my pocket to be in the lower right hand side, so I'm going to build off the top and the side, but you can build off whatever direction you want. Okay, so I'm going to again line up these bottom edges because we're working this direction, and line up this side edge here and just put a couple pins, and then we're going to do exactly what we did on the last one, except for instead of cutting off at the end of that square, we're going to go all the way to the end of where we just built it up to. And then again, trim these edges, pull out the pins, and then we're going to cut this about 1/2 inch taller than we think we need, just in case. And then iron open. Okay, so now I bet you can guess what we're going to do next. We're going to take this dark fabric and we're going to build it on here, and then the next step is another light fabric on this side. And you can do that as many times as you want until you've gotten your pillow as large as you want. This is how big I'm going to be making my pillow. Another thing to note is that if you want these strips to be skinnier and to have more of a zigzag look up in whatever way that you have them come together, you can just cut them a little smaller. So maybe instead of a 3-inch piece, maybe you like the idea of a 2-inch piece. If you've got a bunch of old jeans, you can play around with this as much as you want. So the next thing that we're going to need to do is get a back for our pillow. And for that pillow back, I'm going to use the bottom part of a jean leg here. So I'm just going to lay this out like so, and I'm going to put this on top, and then I'm just going to kind of cut out the shape that I need. Now you don't have to be perfect here because the stitching is going to make everything work out great when we flip it right side out. So you literally just have to make sure that the piece that you cut is larger than the piece that you have for your front. See how I'm leaving such a big space? If you want to be more specific than that, you totally can. I'm also going to make sure to cut off this bottom. That way I don't have a giant thick seam that's just sitting inside my pillow. Okay. So now we're going to put right sides together. So that means the side that you want to see. And let's just make sure this is all lined up pretty good. And then you're going to sew all the way around the outside. Leave a little opening, kind of like we did when we made those mug rugs, because that's how we're going to flip this thing right side out and then be able to put stuffing in it. Now, what you want to make sure when you sew this is if you left a big, like a little bit extra each time you cut off, like I suggested, you're going to have like a little jag right there, right? Well, we're just going to sew straight because that's what's going to make it a square pillow. Don't worry about that jag. Just sew in here from it. So it'll make it square. So once you've got that done, you're just going to reach in and turn this right side out. Make sure you're poking the corners out pretty good so that they're not weird looking. We want those to be pretty pointy since we made a square. There, it looks kind of like a pillow, doesn't it? You can iron these edges if you want, but remember your pillow isn't going to lay flat. So we're going to stuff it. Make sure that you take little pieces of stuffing to fill those corners and then build on it as it comes out. Once you get that stuffed, this end is going to be just like on those mug rugs that we just did. And you're going to want to either sew along the edge with your sewing machine just right there. If you look at any pillow in the store, you'll be able to notice that that's how they finish those. Or you can take some of those hand sewing needles and use the hand sewing tips that we sent with your box this month and hand sew that closed. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'd love to see your finished pillows.